In a world where not all things can be explained, we turn to those with experience and the knowledge to help us. So join us as we explore the paranormal crossings into the unknown.
Hi, welcome to Paranormal Crossings Into the Unknown. I'm your host, Aaron Collins, and I'm here with James Mitchell. How you doing, James?
Doing good, Aaron. How are you?
I am doing fantastico. Is that a word, fantastico?
It is tonight.
Okay. Well, we'll just make up our own words, right?
Why not?
Yeah, why not? So, how was your shindig last night with the wife? Was it good or?
We're not even gonna discuss that on here.
I thought I would wait until we're on the air before we, dig into personal stuff, right? Come on, air out your dirty laundry. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. In that case, how's yours?
Moving along. It's good. It's good. No, but we did have actually a good last weekend together. We interviewed Darren Scholl with DBK Investigations,
right? And
he invited you and I to join his team on an investigation last weekend, which we did go, and that was fantastic, man. We had a great time, and we had lots of evidence. We're still reviewing, and I know they're still reviewing, and we caught some stuff so far.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
That was a good night, man. It was. Yeah, by far. It was much needed to get out and, work with another team and see how they work.
Exactly. You just took the words right out of my mouth too. It was nice seeing how another team investigates and how they approach an investigation, and they were open to our suggestions and how we do things as well, and just kind of incorporate both teams. And it worked out great, and we all worked well together. In fact, they invited us to come back and do another investigation together, which was awesome. And but yeah, we had a great night. That was a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah.
So a lot of good stuff happening. So it'd be nice if we can get into that other location.
I know. I'm hoping they hear something really soon on that one.
Yeah. Hopefully she gets an email back. Be nice, because that is a prime location. So, and in other news, so tonight we have a guest who is out of Canada, and actually we also have joining us our producer, Joel Walling, and you can say hi, Joel.
Hi. Normally I am the Oz of podcasting. Pay no attention to the man behind the headset, so I just keep my microphone muted. But tonight I said, what the hell, and I'll go with it.
There you go. So I said you can pipe in any time, and I say this every show, but this time you're actually going to pipe in, so that's good. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, this time I'm actually here.
You're actually present. All right. Not just the guy saying, go to commercial, All right. And so for our special guest tonight, who's a friend of Joel's, you can tell us a little bit more about Tammy before we actually fully introduce her, if you like.
Okay, and I know I'm going to mess up some of this, but Tammy is doing some work with us with PNBC. She has come on board. She was actually a fan. She was watching one of our live streams and started commenting on it and said, maybe next time you do this, I'd like to join you. And we always try to get some interaction and stuff like that going. I mean, we try with PNBC, we really are trying to break all the I guess you would say the superstition and everything that's really linked into the paranormal. So I saw this and I'm like, hey, I messaged her. I told her next time we started lining something up and message her, and I did, and I told her, like, hey, we're going to be doing a live stream. We're not exactly sure what we're going to be doing. normally we did something with either some type of new app that we would test or Ouija board and Tammy actually does, what is the type of card again you read?
Oracle cards.
Oracle cards. Okay. Because I kept on wanting to call them tarot cards, and I still want to keep calling them tarot cards. And it's two different things. It's two different things, and I got to keep that in mind. And she also does pendulum readings, and she brought some pendulums, and she brought the oracle cards with her. We did some stuff there. The pendulum thing actually really kind of freaked me out. It's the first I'd seen them used, but I'd never really done it myself, and to see it react the way it did really it's surprising. I mean, you just ask it the questions and you're sitting there and you can see it. It's not moving at all. Your hands aren't moving. Nothing's moving around you. And all of a sudden it just starts swinging in a circle.
Oh, wow.
It is freaky. I'll tell you that much. It actually made me like want to run home and grab stuff like, okay, what can I make out of, because it's like, oh, you can use anything as a pendulum. Anything. There's some string, and I can. I started to want to run home and grab stuff because it was really a fascinating thing. Like I said, to see it react the way it did, to go from a complete dead calm to just mine was swinging like a propeller almost. I mean, some of the guys,
seriously.
Yeah, some of the other guys were just barely like they would get a little bit of a circular motion going. Mine looked like a damn ceiling fan.
Oh my gosh.
Was flying.
Wow.
And then she gave some guests that were watching, or some viewers that were watching, she actually gave some readings out. And then after that, we actually ended up inviting her on an investigation, and she's, I guess you'd say, in training as a new investigator.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
And so you're also a Reiki master, and as well as a crystal and stone reader.
Yeah.
And so let me, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so please welcome to the show, Tammy Luethje. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Ah, all right. Well, thank you for agreeing to be on the show tonight. We really appreciate it, and so looking forward to hearing more in-depth detail about the great things that you're doing and the positive. Yes, thank you. So tell us a little bit about the oracle cards. What is different between oracle and tarot?
Well, oracle kind of came about because whenever anybody thought of tarot, they think of the negativity attached to it. Tarot has, as a whole, a lot of it's not the truth behind it, but a lot of people, when you talk about tarot, they're like, oh my God, that witchy stuff, right? So I really don't know who came out with the first set of oracle cards, but oracle cards basically have no negative cards in them. They're all positive cards. And tarot is the same in that sense. Like everybody when they think of tarot, the first card that they think of is the death card. And the death card doesn't actually mean that you're going to die or somebody you know is going to die. It's more about a renewal and something bright being on your future, right? But
right.
The oracle cards, the one thing, the tarot cards are generally set in stone on what they are, right? There's a major and minor arcana, and within those arcana, there are certain cards. Whereas with the oracle cards, it's up to the author of the deck on what they want to be in there. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I've got butterfly decks, I've got angel decks, I've got decks that have to do with crystals, decks that have to do with trees. Like, it's completely up to the author what it means. So being certified in oracle, I'm able to kind of tune into my intuition and say, okay, I'm reading this person, which deck do I need to use, or which decks do I need to use to be able to read for them? And I just find I can do both, but I find that I get a better representation of what my clients need to hear versus just doing tarot. And I'm not, there's a lot of people that are great tarot readers. This is just a personal thing for myself.
Right. Now, now you said your intuitiveness. Now, are you a psychic? Are you a medium?
I would call myself I wouldn't call myself, there's so many different terms. There's psychic, medium, intuitive, on and on they go, right? And to be honest with you, I really don't know. I haven't sat down and looked at all the definitions or anything like that, but I would call myself more of an intuitive reader.
Okay.
I get hits. I'm pretty good about getting the hits for people, but I pretty much, because I've been doing this for about 20 years now, all of my clairs tend to be open when I'm working, and so I might see a picture or a symbol, which I've come to learn what the different symbols, when I'm shown those symbols, I've come to learn what they mean. For example, if I see a horse that's moving forward, that means I need to tell the person I'm working with that whatever their project they're working on, they need to go forward with it, or their life needs to be moved forward, right? And so I'll feel things, if somebody has crossed over and they died of a heart attack or something in the chest area, I'll feel pain in my chest, those sorts of things. So,
okay.
I don't know. I don't know what the definitions are for psychics and mediums. I use my intuition a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I call myself an intuitive reader, I guess.
Have you always had that gift?
Well, let me tell you, my grandmother, we used to hand her, my grandfather would hand her a Christmas present. She'd go, "Oh, thanks for the watch," right?
Oh,
so it's something that has been in my family for generations, and I've known from a very young age that I was different, because I've always had the ability to walk into a room and go, I like you, but I don't like you. I didn't know why, but I knew I was feeling their energy, right? So I knew there was reasons if somebody came across my path that I felt uneasy about, there was a reason for it. But I didn't really understand or get into this until it was 1995. And my daughter I had a 3-month-old daughter with my previous husband, and she had died of SIDS. And after she died, I really started to dive into, is there life after death? And the first book I read was James Van Prague, Talking to Heaven, and he's quite a well-known medium. And so I started taking courses at that time. I took some from James and Doreen Virtue and Colette Baron Reed, just a whole bunch of different people. And I read and I read and I read. And as I was doing all this research and taking these courses, I started developing my gift, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. And just I don't like calling it a gift. Because everybody has the ability to do this if they sit down and do the work, right? I became more open to and really understanding what my intuition was doing and was telling me. So yeah, it's been about a 20-year journey, but it definitely, my mom was the same way. She, there were times that she spit out stuff that it was like, okay, where did that come from? And then it would come true, so it's definitely something that's been in my family for a while, but I think I'm the first one to actually sit down and develop it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry for the loss of your child. That
you know what? It's for me now, that was a life lesson, and everything that happens to us, every single thing, when we meet somebody or somebody passes, whatever the case may be, there's a lesson to be learned from it. And just as a little side note, I was married to a very nice man. He was a wonderful person, but he wasn't my person, and I knew that walking down the aisle, that I wasn't supposed to be with him. And actually, the same year that my daughter died, my grandmother died. And my what I believe now is that my daughter was my grandmother coming back and then leaving to awaken me and say, this is not where you're supposed to be. So within 3 months of her death, we were separated. And that's when my awakening really started. And so now I understand that, and we don't really die, right? Our energy moves on, and I know we'll be reconnected, and it's all good now. Back then it wasn't it's difficult, right, when you lose somebody.
Sure.
But the lessons have been learned for me now.
Wow, that's a very positive way of looking at it.
Yeah, well, it's been a long time, so.
Sure. Wow, and so as far as the oracle cards. Do you do this professionally, or?
I did for quite a while. I have had clients all over the world, and I work through Skype or through Zoom or on Facebook Live, whatever, right? And I used to do live videos. I've had several groups with thousands of people in them, and I'm still a moderator for one group and an admin on another group, and so it was a business that I was running for the longest time, and I came to the conclusion that I'm better off helping people that really need the help versus doing these sorts of reads and the people. I'm also a channel, so I had an experience one day, and Jesus came through and said,
Wow.
People are not supposed to be focusing on the afterlife. They need to focus on their life on earth. And so I was spending so much time helping people talk to and connect with people that had died that they were really not focusing on what they were supposed to be doing while here. And so I felt that, my job now is to help those that come to me through the universe. It's not so much, I don't do it to make money anymore. I do it as it's just more of a passion, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that must have been an incredible experience to have Jesus come through.
Oh, gosh, if I could. I've spoken, Jesus used to show up in my shower all the time because water's a conduit, right? So,
What?
yeah,
Wow.
he would show up in my shower and give me lessons of love and self-love and all sorts of things. I've channeled Gaddafi. I was downstairs one day and Omar Gaddafi. I got it wrong when it came through. I'm like, because I didn't know I knew Gaddafi. I knew the name and some sort of connection with the Middle East, right? And I was like, okay, was that Omar or was it Momar? What did you say? And then I came up and anyway, he came through as a channel and talked about how, there was so much negativity focused on his life, and that's not what he was all about, right? So that was cool. But I've talked to several. Mother Mary has come through. I've had several over the course of the last probably 10 years.
Wow, that is just incredible.
It's been very cool.
That is, there's a couple of ladies that are part of our paranormal group who are psychic mediums, and one of them is a demon seer, and she has the ability to rid spaces of demons. And I'm an ordained minister, and so they have asked me to come along on many occasions to help. I don't rid demons, but I can help console the families and assist in that way, and through prayer and things like that. So.
For sure.
I assisted this one time, and I've never spoken about this publicly, but you mentioned Jesus coming through, and in this one case, it was pretty brutal as far as the demonic entity that was there, and it was very difficult. I had never seen a case like that. I've never been involved in a case like that before that, and it was unbelievable. Jesus came through. And I saw him, and I couldn't see him as a person, but more of a light being.
That's exactly, yeah.
And it was the most magnificent feeling in my entire life. And
absolutely, yeah.
And he was so massive, and he held out his hand towards this spirit, saying, just take my hand. And I remember thinking, if you don't, I will. I mean, oh my goodness. And it was just one of the most incredible feelings and the most incredible experiences I've ever had. I'll never forget it. So for you to have that experience, I've never heard of anybody else talk about an experience like that before. And again, I've never spoken about this.
Several experiences. Like I said, every time I got in the shower, he would show up, and same thing. You're talking about the emotions that he brings. He really does. He brings in a real sense of peace and love and joy and positivity and all that sort of stuff. And the first time he came through was a real game changer for me. That's when I really started to believe and really started to see. I mean, I've Archangel Michael has come through. I've seen quite a few etheric beings that have, or ascended masters, right, that have come through and given me messages that I needed to hear, I needed to give. And there's a lot of people, when I talk about this stuff, you get the rolling of the eyes, like, oh, yeah, whatever.
Oh, sure.
Right? So I'm a big proponent, even being intuitive, I'm still a big proponent in the balance between science and spirituality. And I don't believe that you can have one without the other. Like there's actually there's a project called, I think it was called the God Project, or the God's Particle or something like that. And there's scientifically we can go down to, through a microscope, we can see the atom, which is the smallest thing, visible through those microscopes. And they have now, the God particle, that term itself was coined by a physicist. His name was Leon Lederman, and I think it was back in the early 1990s, and it was in one of the popular science books that he wrote about this God particle. And what the theory behind it is that there are actually cells or molecules that are smaller than the atom, but they haven't had the ability to see them up until now. It's only been the last couple of years that they scientifically have shown that there are things in the environment that we can't see, right?
Wow.
Like you, even with a microscope, now they're showing. And so the connection with that is that, we can't see Jesus on a daily basis, and we can't see God on a daily basis, but that doesn't mean they don't exist.
Right.
And now science is coming together and showing that there is some proof behind this. There is some proof to the afterlife. There is some articles and everything out there that are showing this stuff actually does exist.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So you were talking, when I was doing a little bit of an introduction, because Joel did such a fantastic job.
Yeah, I've been doing this a while.
Just a little bit, Joel. You said I said something about crystal and stone reader. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And then we'll get into the Reiki master.
Sure. It was really cool because I have a neighbor that's a shaman. And this is probably, going back to eight or 9 years now. I went over to her house and she said to me, and I knew nothing about crystals at that point because it was all about the cards and my intuitiveness at the time. And so I went over to her place, and she was big into crystals and stones, and she said, "Here, I want to try something with you. I just have this feeling and I want to try something." She said, "Hold this stone, close your eyes, and tell me what you see." So I did, and my first vision that came through was this dog coming up and biting this kid. And, it was quite a horrific bite. And I opened my eyes, and she looked at me, and she said, "What did you see?" I told her, and she said, "Well, that was me when I was a little girl. I got bit by a dog at my uncle's farm, and the scar's on my face." And she showed me the scar, and I was like, "Okay, well, that was bizarre." And she said, "Take another one, do it again." And so I did it again, and I saw a tractor that had turned over. It was out in the middle of a farming field, and it had turned over, and I totally felt that somebody had died in this accident, and opened my eyes, and I told her what I saw, and she said, "Yeah, that same uncle, that's the farm that I lived on. My cousin, the tractor fell over, and my cousin was killed." And I was like, okay, so this went on for a while, and every time I took a stone, I could feel energy off of it, and it would send me visions, basically. So I started incorporating the stones into my readings, and every time I do something now, I always have a stone with me because the energy tends to heighten the abilities, I guess, is the best way to put it, right? Heighten my abilities. It gives me clear visions, and, I'm usually able to pick them up and tell people what they need to hear. So it's been a very cool progression. So I own a lot of rocks.
So you're not off your rocker, but you own a lot of rocks.
Exactly. Well, it depends on the day, Aaron.
All right. Don't ask Joel, because,
No.
you know.
Yeah.
So, and is it because stones hold so much energy, depending on the stones?
Yeah, depending on the stone. And each stone, you know, like I'll use the rose quartz, for example. It's one of the most common ones. The rose quartz is all about joy and love and peace and happiness, right? So I tell people if they're feeling depressed or sad or you know, sick, whatever, then to go get a rose quartz and stick it in your pocket and carry it around with you. And each stone tends to hold a different vibration.
Yeah.
And that's based on, again, going back to science, that's based on the density of the stone, because a stone's a stone, but each of them, their densities are different, right? There's
right.
like the diamond is the hardest stone, right? So depending on what it is, the density of the stone the vibration is going to be different in it as well. So yeah, I will tell people, well, this is what you need. This is what you need to pack around and carry with you. And I usually always have something on. I'm usually always wearing some sort of stone.
Right. Okay. Wow. And then
is there any stones that you don't want to combine together?
There are. There are some stones that are so high energy, and I should have had my stones out in front of me. Sorry, guys. There are some that are so high energy that and it's whatever their purpose has been figured out to be, that you don't want to mix them with other stones that the energy may counteract one another, right? So it's really important that if you're going to go out and buy some stones for yourself or get some, that you do a little bit of research and find out which each one is for before you actually go, because you might end up with the wrong one. I went to bed one night, and I think it was obsidian. It was a black stone anyway that I stuck under my bed, and I had the worst dreams that night. I had horrible, horrible nightmares. The next night I removed it, and I sleep with rose quartz every night, and put rose quartz under my pillow, and I was fine, right? So you have to be really careful with what you're getting. You want to make sure that it's what the purpose is made for it, and then if you're going to have more, you want to make sure that there isn't anything that's going to counteract one another.
I guess I need to get a lot of rose quartz. I need to
That's what I was just thinking.
Everybody needs rose quartz. Rose quartz is one of my favorite. Amethyst and rose quartz. Those are my two favorites. Yeah, no, you can't go wrong with rose quartz.
Now, Joel, I have a question for you, actually. You said that Tammy just joined your investigative group?
Yeah.
Okay, and then how has her gifts and what has she brought to your group?
Well, so far we've only done one investigation with her, and I haven't got everything cleared with them yet. But I don't know. To me, she did say she had tapped into one of the energies there, and it turned a little awkward.
Really?
And
yeah, it was a little.
In what way?
Let's, I guess how should I put this together? I'm making sure I'm trying to make sure the client stays like completely out of it, but we'll put it this way. It was someone from her husband's past, and not very distant past.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wink, wink.
That maybe
okay.
he shouldn't have been doing things with in the biblical sense.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
And it was really funny because when there was one area of the house that we went into, and I said, can we go in there? Because I felt something was in this particular area. And the client was like, yeah, sure, go. The door was locked. She's like, what? What do you mean the door's locked? And I said, yeah, the door's locked. So I just held my hands up on the door, and I felt the vibration coming from within it. And that's when I went up, and I saw a letter, and then I heard a name, and I went up and I said, so who's this person? And she says, oh, that's that woman.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like, okay. And so we talked about it a little bit, and then then the other one was we went into another room and I saw another letter and heard another name, and I went out and it was her son, actually. So we talked a little bit about that as well. So it was very, very cool. It was very cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool investigation.
Very. Oh my goodness.
Hopefully, well, of course, this is the winter time in Kitimat, and I'm hibernating. I'm like a bear. I don't come out much in the winter. It's
right.
Like I'll come out for food, and that's about it. But so hopefully when we do get some more cases open up, and we are, I definitely would like to see her get her feelings in the George Little house, where I'm going to be talking to the curator. She doesn't like being called the curator because she's like, I manage it, because it's kind of like a museum / train station now, honestly.
Wow.
And so, I mean, it's got people going in and out of it all the time. There's a little gift shop in there and everything. But the fact of it is, it's one of the oldest houses in Terrace.
Huh.
And then it was built by one of the founders of Terrace, British Columbia, George Little. It was his house. And when he, actually, there were some things that happened there, and he didn't want it anymore, so he gave it to the city, and then somebody else ended up buying it and moving it. And then when that person passed away, he, out of respect for George, he gave it back to the city of Terrace, and it became like a battered women's shelter and things like that. Mm-hmm. And through time, then they got new places for that kind of thing, and then they got a couple other things. It's like, well, what are we going to do with it? So they turned it into the train station.
Wow.
And it's full of a lot of great history, and it's got a lot of the original stuff in it. A lot of I believe it was built by George Little's son and brother, if I'm not mistaken. And it's all like original work inside. Even the original hardwood floors are there. This thing is from, I want to say it was built in 1909 or something like that, and it is solid as a rock. And to see the actual trim work and stuff in it, it's freaking gorgeous. And to think that they did this,
beautiful.
They did this, over 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how did they do that? This is stuff that's not even equal to today's stuff. Can't touch it. And they, it was all done by hand tools and just guys that really knew their craft. I'd love to get her in there, of course, with the art studio, where we've gotten a lot of interesting things in the past, including when the last time we were there, PNBC was there, and Pete Wren from VPS was with us, and he got what sounded to me like native singing in the actual Nishka language. And I'm attempting to get somebody to translate that now.
That would be crazy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Especially translation.
Yeah, if we could actually figure out what the person was saying. There's a lot of that area, that downstairs, that art studio, the artists put a lot of their own energy into their work.
Oh yeah.
And there's just so much down there. I mean, every time we're down there, I've gotten whistles. I've got, I can't remember what it was that triggered. And I was actually talking about my voice recorder or something, and was like, should I move something? And he goes, a guy comes and goes, oh, I'm over here.
Really?
And it's like, and the thing of it was, I have really crazy hearing. And it's really hard to get people to understand this. I actually have a chronic ear infection. Mm-hmm. I've been treated for this ear infection for going on 25 years.
Oh my gosh!
It's not going away. I've taken the highest level antibiotics I can possibly take. They went so high that they've actually damaged my hearing.
Oh my gosh!
Except I didn't lose the lower levels. I lose the higher levels. If you're like yelling at me, I can't hear you. Mm. It's like you're jumbled.
Well, that's handy.
It's jumbled. Yeah, it works out a lot.
Probably pisses the wife off, but
I was going to
say. Yeah, more often than not, yes. Mm-hmm. But, it's like, but I can hear in lower levels. So a lot of stuff that people would pick up like on a recorder and think, okay, this is an EVP. It's not to me. I heard it. When the guy said, I'm over here, I heard it.
Wow.
I was like, something just said they're over there. Or over, he's like, and I'm pointing to it.
Disembodied voice.
Yeah, disembodied voice for you.
That's the thing. It's like I can hear, it was actually funny. This was at another place me and Pete were. He was sitting there, and he's got one of the big recorders, and he has the big noise-canceling earphones and all of that, one of the big $150 microphones pointing in all these different direction, recorders.
Wow.
He's got one of the big ones, and it picks up stuff clear as a bell. I was joking with Michael the other day. He was like, well, what kind of recorder has he got? It's like, it's one of those that you can hear a gnat scratch its testicles at 20 feet, It's like, it's one of those. It's that good.
That's crazy.
And
oh my gosh.
We were on an investigation, and he heard something, and he marked it, and I was like, I just heard. And his jaw hit the floor, and he's like, Jesus, you actually heard that? He's, how the hell did you hear that? That was like a whisper on here. Like, I heard it. It came from over there, That's my hearing. My hearing range is really low, and I'm always hearing stuff when I come down there. It's like I said, there's been several artists in there, and tragically, I think it's 3 of them have passed away under the age of, I want to say under the age of 60, but it may be under the age of 50.
Wow.
And
wow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going there. The other one I'm looking forward to doing is the heritage houses.
Yeah. Now that one actually, I don't want to corrupt you too much. I want to get your actual feeling when you go in there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But there's some stuff there I would love to get you in, because I'd actually been trying to get another medium that works with the psychic medium, Sherry. She's also part of PNBC. I've been trying to get a walkthrough done with her, just to get her feeling on a couple of things, because there's a lot more history to that area than even the Heritage Park, I think, realizes, or at least history that they're not acknowledging.
Yeah, I agree.
There's actually a lot there. I did, because it's a habit of mine. I'm a researcher, so whenever we go to an investigation, the first thing I do is I research.
Right.
And I started looking up the land that was there, and I started finding all kinds of information, just amazing stuff about this that's not even acknowledged when you go through the Heritage Park.
Wow.
Well, after that, I guess I should be the producer side of it and say we need to throw to a commercial.
All right, sounds good.
Should I do the unmute and be like, Aaron, throw to commercial?
Sure. All right.
Try not to rattle you and throw you off of anything. Just do the quick little, Aaron, go to commercial.
All right, sounds good. I'll do it. All right, we'll be right back after this short commercial. We're talking with Tammy, and we'll be right back. Well, welcome back to Paranormal Crossings Into the Unknown. We're talking with Tammy today, and Joel, our producer. And welcome back, Tammy.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time to talk to us today, and even though you're a little bit under the weather.
Yeah, I've been fighting with this. My husband brought this cold home from work, and so now I'm fighting with it. So if I sound croaky, I apologize.
Oh, no more croaky than I do. For some reason, if I start recording, of course, my voice starts to go a little hoarse for some reason. So, well, I do hope you feel better.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Now, Joel had mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if it was before recording, but about a pendulum.
Yes.
Tell us a little more about the pendulum that you used.
Well, I do pendulum readings as well, and so the pendulum, you can basically ask yes or no. That's it. They're yes or no answers. So I taught when we did the live with the guys. I went over them, and I brought all my pendulums. I have a few, and brought them with me, and the guys each took one, and I showed them how you charge it for the yes or no answers, how you set it up to answer you. And generally what happens is it gives the energy or spirit or whoever's coming through to assist you, it gives them the guidance to know, okay, this is what I want or this is what you want when you want an answer for yes, and this is what you want for an answer for no. For myself, what I do is I do a circle that goes clockwise, and that's always my yes. And then for a line back and forth is always my no. So okay. I use that on every single read that I do. But a pendulum is something that anybody can use. Anybody. I mean, it was a perfect example. How many? There was 4 guys and myself at the live read, and they all grabbed one, and I showed them how to do it, and every one of them got it to work.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So it's not like it's not like you have to be real intuitive to be able to use a pendulum, because it's all about the energy that comes through, and everything is energy. I mean, I'm sure you guys know that.
For sure.
The beds we sit on, the couches we sit on, they're just energy. Tables, they're energy. Everything is. So you're just basically, and so spirit, when we die, our body is energy. I explained this to them. Our spirit is energy living in a human form right now. And when we die, that energy doesn't die. It doesn't, it's got to go somewhere. So that's what crosses over, and it's that energy that's able to come through and help you with whatever your questions are. So yeah, anybody can use a pendulum. You don't need to be an intuitive or a card reader or anything like that to be able to use a pendulum.
Now, do you have to use these tools for readings, or are you able to do readings without these tools that you use?
Without. I can do them. Most of the time what I do is I'll start with the tools, and then the messages start coming through once the tools are out. It kind of opens a doorway, I guess, and allows the messages to come through. Back to when we were doing the live feed again, and Joel was there, and Danny is another member of the team, and they were sitting at the table, and as I'm doing the card reading, I felt this male figure come through, and I always, when I get male, it's on the left side, and when I get female, it's on the right side. So this felt a male figure come through, and I knew it was directed at Joel, for example, and I turned to him and I said, "So who's the male figure that's crossed over?" And it's like a grandfather figure. It's an older figure and a grandfather figure, and I'm getting the name P, and is it Pa? And he just kind of went, "Holy shit!" Right? 'Cause that was his grandfather, and that's what they called his grandfather, was Pa. And then Danny, his uncle, came through, and I got the name John, and I think it was how there was 3 things. His name was John. The fishing, he liked fishing, because Danny's the skeptic, right? And he kind of turned and said, if I told him to say 3 things and tell me 3 things, and if you can get all them, then I'll believe you. Well, I got all 3 of them. So,
oh wow!
Yeah, he was like, "Holy crap!" Right? So anyway, it does, and I wasn't using any tools at that point. The tools were out, but I wasn't actually using them to get the messages. So the tools are kind of you don't really need the tools. Nobody needs the tools. If you go within and you open up your intuition and you start to really listen. I mean, we all have intuition. You guys know this. When you get that gut feeling that you should or shouldn't be doing something, that's your intuition. And I've taught myself to tap into that fully and really listen to what I'm hearing. And every single person has the ability to do that. This isn't something, you know what? We're all born with this ability. And you've heard of all the kids that, they talk about their invisible friends, right? And that's generally spirit that they're seeing. Because up until the age of about 6 or 7 is when we start to say to kids, you know what, that's not real.
Right.
That's not true. And we shut them down. We end up shutting our children down. We shut their gifts off because they go, okay, well, mom or dad said this isn't real, so I don't believe it anymore. Right? Or their friends or whatever. There's like the encouragement that they all have is removed from them. And so it gets shut off. But every single one of us are born this way, and we all have the ability to tap back into it. Some people, you know, you hear some mediums or psychics or whatever you want to call them, they have that ability through their whole life. And a lot of times I kind of call them like the chosen ones, you know, like that's their journey. That's what they're supposed to be doing in this lifetime. So they come in and they go right at it. They go right to work, right? So, but every single one of us has the ability to do the same thing. I could be a Long Island medium if I wanted to.
There you go.
I don't want to, but I could.
The Canadian medium.
The Canadian medium. The Kitimat medium. Go. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Be more like the frozen in the snow medium.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you been picking up on anything since we've been talking?
No, I haven't. And I will say that's probably because I'm not feeling well. And generally when I'm sick, I tend, it takes a lot of energy to read, because it just does. When you're working with energy, it drains your energy, right? And when I'm sick, I'm really low on energy to begin with, so I tend to close the doors and say, no, you know what, I need to heal myself, or else I end up getting sicker. Right. And you'll hear that from a lot of intuitives, that if they tap into energy, the energy drains them. Or you'll hear, you know, like you guys being ghost hunters, the energy taps into your electronic devices and drains the batteries, right?
All the time.
All the time, yeah. It's the same concept. They tap into my energy for me to be able to do the readings. And when my energy is low, I have to shut it off and say no. And it took me a long time. I will say it took me a long time to learn how to shut it down. And I actually took a course with a very well-known medium, and he said, no, you need to learn to imagine these big, like, barn doors on your third eye or on your crown chakra, and imagine them closing completely and saying, no, the doors are closed, the door's shut. Because I'd be in bed at night and all of a sudden voices are coming through my head and I'm waking up having conversation with ghosts, right? So I've learned to shut it off. And that's what I did today. Well, actually, I did it this morning. It was early this morning. I said, no, I'm too sick today to do
Right?
it. Yeah. You're not getting any of my energy today, guys.
Right?
Yeah.
It's important.
It's very important. Like, people that read don't understand, and I try and really, I've taught classes on this and different courses and help people kind of try and develop their skills. And I always say to them, you have to understand that you have to protect your own energy first and foremost, because you can get really sick. You guys, I'm sure, have seen it where, you go in to do a hunt and your energy get drained and you're hitting the floor because you feel like you're going to pass out, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's no different. It's no different. So yeah, unfortunately today I can't do anything. The doors are closed today.
Oh, no, that's understandable.
Yeah.
Very. So.
Yeah.
And then you're also, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's something I kind of, like I said, she's an investigator in training. And it's one of the things that I've kind of forgotten to give her a little bit of warning about. Like, normally, and I've told the other guys this, the day after an investigation, and it's not just the staying up late. I have insomnia. I stay up late all the damn time, you know. I'm just about always awake. And you really do feel like completely drained after an investigation.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Well, what was the first thing I did when I came out of the live feed? I went outside and I saged myself.
Yeah.
Right away, right? Before I even got in my truck, I went outside and I saged myself to clear that energy and remove it before taking it home with me, right? I was like, no, you can stay there. So
yeah. But, it's funny because Saturday night I closed myself off. I didn't want I wanted spirits to use the tools that we had, and I didn't want them to use me in any way.
Right.
And so I have 2 spinal diseases, and I have severe rheumatoid arthritis. And I'm dealing enough with pain right now, and I had been attacked on an investigation. It was a demonic attack, and I didn't want to go through anything anywhere near that, and so I closed myself off. And excuse me, and so I did that before the investigation, and it worked, of course. And so the guy who invited us to the investigation, he told me the next day, he said, "I don't know about you, ma'am." He said, "but I am wiped out." Mm-hmm. And I said, "Well, I closed myself off before the investigation." And he said, "Yeah, I didn't do that." And he was so drained. And it's his fiance that got sick. So I'm wondering if maybe,
for sure,
it was very emotional for her because there was an entity that was very, very, very close to her, and it really struck her. And she got very emotional that night of the investigation. So I'm wondering if maybe that's what happened, drained her, and then she got sick soon after.
Don't doubt it at all. And that's something like even I do a lot of praying. I do a lot of meditating. I do a lot of, saging and cleansing. I showed Joel and the guys all my my sprays and my sage and my abalone bowl and all that sort of stuff. But I'm very particular about, even when I go work with a client, I sit and I make sure that my energy is clean before starting. I don't, even before we went to the investigation that I joined them on, I sat and I prayed and I called in my angels and I put protection around me and I saged and I did everything that I needed to do before going in that house. And so that prevents, the huge draining that a lot of people feel, because they don't protect themselves. They go in and they think, okay, well, why is this happening? Well, this is why, And like you said, you see it all the time. They drain the batteries all the time because they need that energy to be able to communicate. Yeah. So, and it's no different with spirit. They have to. They're on a different vibration, a different level, if you want to say, right? So their vibration is not the same as ours. And what I do is I use the analogy of like a fish tank. If you imagine that we're in a fish tank in a tank full of water, and they're above the water, and they've got to try and come through that water to communicate with us. And so if you imagine yourself, your head underwater, and somebody's talking to you above the water, do you hear that person? Not really. You might hear a little bit of mumbling or whatever, but you're not really going to hear what they're saying. The barrier has to be broken, and that's one of the reasons why you guys have probably heard that, like at nighttime, how, for me anyway, I know, and a lot of my friends that do this, they say, like every night for me it's every night at 3:33 I get woken up, and it's generally because the veil is thinner at night, and a lot of the ghost hunting is done at night, right? Because and that's why the veil is thinner, so not as much energy is required for them to come through.
Why do you think it's thinner?
That's a good question. I don't really know why. I think probably because as the world, depending on where you are, the world, we go to sleep at night. Our energy naturally, it becomes deflated and less than what it is during the day, right? We need more energy to keep moving through the day, whereas at night, you don't need a lot of energy to go to sleep, right? You use very little energy because you're rebuilding your resources. And so I think that has a lot to do with it, but I don't know. That's just my personal belief. I don't know if there's been any research or anything done on it, but personally, I think that's why it is. It's just we're not as active, and so we emit energy. Like I said earlier, when I walk into a room, I can go, I like you, but I don't like you, and that's because of the energy that I'm feeling. So you get an entire city or province or country or whatever up working during the day. That's a lot of bloody energy to try and break through, right? To try and communicate. So at nighttime, it tends to be a little. That's the belief anyway. The nighttime veil is thinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we did the investigation Saturday, I'm really strong in my beliefs, and so I try to pray before either with the group or privately, depending, on who I'm with. And I asked the group before we started, I said, do you mind if I pray for us? Some of them looked at me funny. The others, it's, oh yeah, please. And some of them said, one couple said, we're really strong in our beliefs, so yeah, please. And after I prayed, and I said, those that don't want to join, that's fine. But I would like to pray before we investigate. And so, anyways, I did. And afterwards, after the end of the night, after the investigation, the lady from the couple said, she said, this was one of the most active investigations, and this was the third time they've investigated this location. She said, I think it's because you prayed. Yeah. And she said, and she said, we've never done this before. We've never prayed, in our group before.
I think it's important that anybody that does any sort of work with spirit, before they step into that work, they need to have some form of protection. And for me and for you and for many that I know, prayer is the number one form. I mean, and prayer is not necessarily getting down on your knees and slapping your hands together like you see in all the books and everything, I'll be driving down the highway and talking to God or talking to Jesus. The biggest one I call in for protection is Archangel Michael. And
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Call him in, and I'll ask him to put that bubble of protection around me, and then I ask God to bring in the light and Jesus to keep it there, and there's kind of a set that I follow when I do it each time. But I think everybody that works with spirit needs to have some form of protection before they do anything.
Absolutely. And the reason why I had that, and I'm not going to go into details because I've already done this on a previous show. The reason why I had the demonic attack is because it was a last-minute decision with another group, a whole group of us, to do an investigation, and I did not protect myself, which is so unlike me. And I went in blindly, did not. And I'm so mad at myself for not doing it, but it happened. But things have been taken care of since. And so if you want to hear more about it, you can watch. I was on Ghost Adventures, and I did talk about it there, and it was the Ghost Adventures Norblad. And so,
cool.
Yeah, excuse me. And so, anyways, so it's always important to protect yourself, and I can't stress that enough. The one time I did not, and this is what happened to me. Not that everybody's going to have a demonic attack. Not everybody believes in that kind of thing, and that's fine. Yeah. But I know what happened, and so, anyways, so it's
very
definitely important. Absolutely, so no matter how you do it. Yeah. And so, it just so happens
it doesn't even matter if you just throw up your voice to God and say, okay, God, you need to stick with me while I go in this, and that's it. But everybody needs to do something just to bring in the power.
Absolutely. I mean, James puts on a tutu and has coconut shell
James.
Around with rattles and
man.
A garlic necklace.
The garlic necklace and the bone through the nose, and banana hat, and so.
And she looks hot.
Oh, very, very. Ask his wife. She loves it. Loves it.
I bet. That's another day.
That's a different show. Okay. I'm getting in trouble, aren't I?
That's all right. I know where you live now.
That's right. So, no, we did not touch on. Now, you're going to have to, because I know two ways to pronounce this: Reiki and Reiki. Which one is it?
It's tomato. I don't think it really matters. Everybody, as soon as you say it, they know what you're talking about, right? So, I say Reiki.
Okay, so what is a Reiki master? What exactly is that?
Well, Reiki was something that was started in. Oh, now I'm put on the spot here. I believe it was Japan. And so this guy goes up in the mountains, basically, and he, Dr. Usui was his name, and he goes up in the mountains, and he basically, the long and short of it is, he healed himself with energy. And so he comes back down and he teaches a certain amount of people how to do this, and it's blossomed from there. It's changed a lot since, like, the interpretation from the way he did it to the way it's done now is different, but the generality behind it is the same. Again, it goes back to energy, and I'm just such a huge proponent of energy. And you know, like if you take your hands and you try to push them together, you feel like there's something between you. If you do it slowly and just push them together, you'll feel that energy between your hands. Well, that energy is very healing. And that's, you know, what this Dr. Usui realized. And if we have negative energy or our body is imbalanced, that's when you get dis-ease. If your chakras aren't working properly and they're not in alignment, and or, you know, you've got a lot of negativity going on in your life, those sorts of things promote negative energy, because there's positive and negative energy, of course, right? Mm-hmm. So the negative energy is what we want to release from our bodies. And as a Reiki master, you go through, it's 4 different levels. There's level 1, 2, 3, and then master. And as a master, I'm able to now work on pretty much anybody. Level 1, I think you work on just yourself, and level 2, it's friends and family. I believe it did this a while ago. So anyway, at level, I'm a trainer and a master, so I'm able to teach it and do it. So basically, you know, somebody will come in and I'll run my hands over their body and feel where the energy is not right, and then work on that area. I start at the head and I work down to the feet, and anytime there's like how do I describe it? I guess it's just like a blockage almost, and more heat comes off of that area, I work more on that area, right? And I'll cleanse it and get it moving and get their chakras moving, and because you guys have obviously heard of chakras. Every chakra in our body aligns to something going on in our life. Like our root chakra, if our root chakra is out of balance, it's usually because we've got family issues or personal issues or stuff like that going on. So you balance it and bring it back into alignment, things start to flow again, right? So
right.
Yeah, so it's I mean, I could honestly, Reiki is something you could talk about for 3 or 4 shows. There's so much involved. There's quite a bit involved in it, but as a generality, it's just moving and cleansing energy to help heal the body.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So as I said, you know, everything is energy. Everything is energy. And since I've come to that realization, it's been, you know, life has been better, and I've been able to. It's not that I don't have, because people are like, oh my God, you must have just the best life ever. And no, that's not how it works. You know, we come here, when the shitty things happen, they're meant to happen for a reason. There's lessons and purposes and experiences behind those. And what, you know, if I have bad days, and I'll sit and I'll cry, and I just allow myself to cry because that's what my body needs at that time. And right. Or the opposite, you know, I can be really happy and crazy one day, and I just allow that because that's what I need at that time. It's all about, again, balance and going with the flow. So many people in this world, I'm going to say world, what they tend to do is, if you imagine yourself going down the river and there's a stick sticking out on the side of the river, and you grab that stick and you hang on, the river is going to go over top of you, and try and push you with it, and your arm's going to get tired. And that's what so many people do. They're fighting against it. They're hanging on to the negativity and the damaging things that are hurting them in their lives, instead of just and riding down the river like you're on an inner tube, right? And just going with the flow. It's really important that we all kind of awaken to our abilities to go with the flow and quit reaching out for that stick to hang on. That the hanging on is what makes you sick. That's where disease comes from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I did that trying water skiing, and I fell, and I kept holding on. Couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, let
and
go.
all I could hear was let go. You know, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So James, have you noticed a common thing between Tammy and Jason Keeling from England, with them both being Reiki masters? Seriously, have you noticed anything that's common?
You can put me on the spot. Wow.
Of course. Sorry to wake you up. No, I'm just kidding. Well, talking of the energy and things, both of them so positive. And that's what I love about Tammy, and honestly, and love about Jason, is the positiveness. Yes, you're going to have bad days.
For sure.
Yes, you're going to cry, like you said. But I love how you bring up so much positive energy. And that's what I love that, because let's face it, we have too much negativity in this world.
Absolutely.
And every time we turn on the news, what do we get? Every time we see a news feed on our phones, what do we get?
Mm-hmm.
It's all negative. I don't see any positive things.
Yeah.
When was the last time we see on the news feed, first thing, you see something great and positive?
A great story, for sure.
Exactly. It's always a negative story.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. And that's we become programmed to live like that.
Yeah.
Because that's what's surrounding us, right? I don't watch the news anymore. I shouldn't say that. I'm a Facebook whore, so I'm on it all the time. And I get my news from there, I guess. But I also go out and research and do my own kind of evidence finding before I make decisions on everything. But I now have the ability to read stuff and go, okay, yeah, that kind of pisses me off, but I'm letting it go because it's not really about me, right? Many people don't have that ability. Something upsets them and it sticks with them forever and ever.
Oh, yes. I have family members that are like that. Even today, political. I don't even discuss politics.
Yeah.
And they are so upset. And I'm thinking, how is this part affecting your life right now?
Right.
Why are you so angry right this minute?
Right. We don't live in the moment. That's the biggest issue, is that all of us need to learn to not live in the past and not live in the future. We need to live in this right now moment. What is going on with you right now that you can control? Because you can't do anything about the past. It's already gone. And you don't know what's going to go on in the future. So you have no control there. The only thing you have absolute control over is right this minute, this second. That's it.
That's so funny you say that, because I say that all the time.
Yeah.
I say, why are you worried about something you have no control over?
For sure.
You have no control over that. So why are you worried about this particular thing?
I think
it may not pertain to politics, but anything.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, again, it goes back to so many people being programmed by not just the news, by TV programs, by commercials, by, all that sort of stuff. And I went without TV for about 5 years. We shut everything off, and the only thing I watched was Netflix, right? And I'd go on and I'd choose what I wanted to watch and watch it. If I didn't feel good about it, I shut it off. But now I'm at the point in my life, we've got TV back again, because I'm at the point where I have the ability to go, when I'm upset about that, I can sit with that, and then the next minute it's gone. It's done.
Right.
It's over.
Mm-hmm.
Where so many people, because they've got such a buildup of anxiety and negativity and all those, we have two choices in our life, love or fear. I did this with the guys. I wish I could show you how it's done, but you've got love and fear. So if you imagine, all the love things are on your pointer finger, and all the fear things are on your middle finger. So under love on the pointer finger, we've got, joy, peace, happiness, all those kind of really feel-good emotions. And under fear, we've got anger, negativity, disease, all those sorts of things. Well, what happens when we focus on the stuff that's going on in the middle finger? Turn your hand around and keep your middle finger up.
Yeah.
You get effed.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's
Right.
what happens. If you focus on negativity, it's going to screw you over. You're going
Right.
to end up with illnesses and all those sorts of things. So I really wish more people would tune into the ability of letting stuff go. And I don't mean things like huge traumatic events that have happened to your life. Actually, one of the times I channeled Jesus, he said to me, the whole term, because let it go was such a big term within the spiritual movement. And so he said to me, if you have something happen to you that's very traumatic, and you say you just got to let that go, that's like cutting off your arm. This is whatever has happened is a piece of you now. It's a part of you. So if you just want to cut off your arm and say let it go, you still have that wound. It's still there, right? The better thing to do is to say, you know what, I accept this has happened, and it's all part of the life lessons I'm meant to learn while I'm here. And what do I need to learn from it? And look at it that way instead, and kind of incorporate it into your system. But don't make it such a negative thing. Just understand, like I was saying earlier, if I have to cry, I sit and I cry, and then it's done. We all know that when we cry, it's a release, right? And if you've ever had a good cry, you feel good after it's done. It's the same thing when you kind of incorporate this stuff, and then you just, you don't focus so much on it. You understand it, but it's not a prime concern for you. So many people, they take the negative, and it's just like, this is my life. This is what's happening. And the universe, every time you throw something out to the universe, it throws something back at you.
Absolutely.
So if you say to the universe, okay, if you say to the universe, I can't do this, the universe is going to say to you, you know what, you're right. You can't do that. And they'll throw more shit at you until you finally turn around and you say, you know what, I got this. I figured it out. And then the universe says, okay, next lesson. It gives you your next lesson, right? But the longer you sit and fight something, the longer it's going to carry on. And that's true for everything.
I'm still learning that. I'm guilty of doing the same thing, and it is hard. It's not an easy thing to do, but the more you think positive and you speak positive, the more positive comes back.
Right.
And but it's easy to get stuck in that rut, and pour me and pour this, pour that, and it's really easy to do that. And
it's very easy. Very easy. And unfortunately, again, it goes back to a lot of the programming that we've been dealt through, like I said, the TV, the radio, all that sort of stuff. But also our parents, what they instilled in us when we were children. There's very few people I know that had really, really great childhoods. There was, always something that happens. Parents are meant to piss off their kids, right?
Oh, yeah.
So everybody's got a story about what my parents did to me at this particular time. And we tend to, that tends to shape us. And, it makes us who we all are. And so people, I use another analogy, and it's a merry-go-round. So you imagine yourself riding this merry-go-round, and it's what you know. You just keep going around and around and around, and you can't let go of that pole to step off of it. You just stay on the ride, and that's what a lot of people do. That are thinking they're like that woe is me syndrome, I call it. They won't let go of that ride. But as soon as they step off and realize that there's something else besides riding the merry-go-round, you start to open up and realize, okay, there's something else to life. I can enjoy life. There's good things in life. And the more you focus on that, the brighter it'll become. And like I said, I'm not saying your every day is going to be great. We all have shitty days. But the more positivity you bring into yourself, the brighter your light's going to shine.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, this has been very therapeutic for me.
Good. I'll give you my card afterwards.
All right. No, that sounds good. Yeah. No, and that's something that we all need to learn. We have too much negativity in this world, and we just need to bring more positiveness, and James and I were just together last night, actually, having coffee and going over some evidence, and, we were talking about some negative things that have happened, and, but we need to stick together and just be positive light in each other's lives. And we all need to do this for each other, and I have another friend who says, when anybody calls me, they always want something, or they just want to, they want to complain about stuff. And they never just call me and say, how are you doing? Mm-hmm. And so I make a point. I call them, say, how are you doing?
Yeah.
What's going on with you?
Yeah.
And
but it's true, though. Like, we've become a society of neglect. We neglect ourselves. We neglect our health. We neglect our bodies. We neglect our neighbors. I mean, don't you remember that? I don't know how old you are, Aaron, but I'm 53 going on 54. So when I was a kid, all the neighbors knew each other. Okay. We'd get up and we'd go play in the yards of the kids down the street. And when the street light came on, you went home again. But everybody knew everybody, and everybody looked out for each other. And nowadays, if you wave at your neighbor, you're getting the middle finger sent back to you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nobody. If everybody's become so isolated and dependent on themselves and only looking out for themselves instead of. And that has a lot to do with one of the biggest lessons we have to learn while we're here is self-love.
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with love. They don't like what they see in the mirror, and when they look outside, it's reflected back at them, and they look at their neighbors, and their neighbor might be doing something better than them that particular day. So all of a sudden, it's like, well, I don't have that, so I'm pissed off at my neighbor, and it's just not. It's not like it was where what I have. It doesn't matter if you have it or not.
Right.
So it's just to each their own.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah. Well, and to answer your question, I'll be 50 this year. And, growing up in the South, because I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, growing up in the South, in the 70s and early 80s, it was like that. You waved to your neighbors, you talked to neighbors. Sure, I don't even think we locked our doors in the 70s.
No, not at all.
And rode our bikes all over the place when I was a kid, and didn't have to worry. My mom's only stipulation was take a handful of quarters and call me from a payphone every few hours.
Right.
No big deal. People were friendly back there, but today you're right. You wave to a neighbor and they'll flip you off or pull a gun on you. What do you want?
Yeah, for sure.
Just waving.
Yeah.
And so,
it's like you want something. You want something from them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've all just become so isolated.
Yeah, exactly. It's sad. It's really sad.
It is. It's very sad because, again, you were talking a little bit about the political situation and that sort of stuff. It's like the only time it seems like a lot of the people that I talk to, the only time I have really in-depth conversations with them is when they want to talk about something negative.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about the positive things going on. It's like, oh, did you hear this about so-and-so, or did you know this was going on right now? It's like you said, the news. The news starts off all the time with something negative, right? So we've become very programmed to that sort of lifestyle now, and it's just wrong. It really is.
It's terrible.
We need to reverse and go back to the days of what's my favorite saying in the Bible is love thy neighbor.
Absolutely.
Right? Doesn't matter who they are or what they look like or their skin color or their sexuality, whatever. It doesn't matter. We need to love on everybody.
That's exactly it. That's the way it should be. That's the way I was raised.
Yeah, me too.
But
you just don't see it.
Yeah. James, are you still with us?
I am. I was just thinking how much I need a revitalized love of myself here. So much negativity. I just need to, stuff myself in the corner, just work on myself, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, you know, like Jesus would come through in the shower all the time with me, and that's what he said to me one day, is that the biggest lesson you are here to learn is self-love, that we need to be more selfish. And selfish doesn't mean I want. It means it's more about yourself. Because as soon as you start going within and loving yourself, that radiates. Again, it's energy, right? So that energy is going to radiate to others, and it becomes contagious. It does. But I'm even saying that, I'm going to say, you know, there have been people in my life personally that I had to let go of because they were so negative. And, and I can't, being an energy reader, I can't be around that anymore. And you can only help some people so much, right? Before it's like, okay, what you're doing is really affecting me. And so you become selfish again and say, no, I can't do this anymore. You need to figure this out on your own. And honestly, it's very easy for me now to cut people out of my life because I don't allow any negative energy to come within. I just don't. So if people have issues figuring out their own crap, and, you know, I've given them advice, I've tried to help them, and they still are assholes, for lack of a better term, then I'm like, you're going to have to be removed because that, again, affects you.
Yeah.
It affects you. But, you know, Jesus said, self-love, number one. Can you imagine we all loved ourselves? How can you love somebody else if you don't love yourself?
Exactly.
Yep.
Right? You can't. It can't be done. You cannot give away something that you don't have. So
that's true. That is true, actually. I never thought of it that way.
If you don't have it, then you can't give it away. So we all need to figure out. And there's a book out, Matt Kahn, actually putting a plug on for Matt here. I don't know him. I just know I've read his book. Matt Kahn, and it's called Love Revolution or something. Matt Kahn. Let me just get the name of it here. Whatever Arises, Love That. It's probably one of the best books that I've read about self-love, and he's got some exercises and that sort of stuff in the book that will, you know, assist people in learning to love themselves. Great book if you're looking to
sounds like a good book.
Yeah, do some inner work. So he's a good guy to get, and he's got a ton of YouTube videos as well that are really well done. He's probably one of the best spiritual speakers out there right now. And I'm not big on gurus. Like, I don't do the guru thing. I'm just not into people that, you know, put themselves up on top of a pedestal and have thousands and thousands of followers. I'm just not into that. And Matt's one of the few spiritual teachers that's the same way. He's like, you know what, you take what you want and leave the rest type thing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. I like that. That sounds like a good book.
It is. Yeah, it's a really good book.
Well, Tammy, thank you so much for coming on and visiting with us and letting us learn from you, because I definitely learned a lot today.
Good.
And, yeah, I really enjoyed having you on.
Definitely my pleasure.
I made a good choice.
You did. You done good, Joel.
I'll pat you on top of the head next time I see you.
Yes, please do that for us.
Yeah, I will.
And you're more than welcome to come on again sometime. And, I would love to have you back.
Talk about ghost hunting, because this is my new passion now.
There you go. Well, maybe you guys will. What's that?
I'll come to Oregon and do some ghost hunting.
You know what? You've got to bring Joel with you.
Okay.
And you guys come down here, seriously.
Okay, Joel, we're going to Oregon.
So, in fact,
shooting that for next year.
Next year, the Oregon Ghost Conference you got to come down. I'm telling you.
Fantastic.
So I'll send you information. I don't know when it'll be next year just yet. We're getting ready to have it this year, March 29th through the 31st. So I'm not sure what the following years will be, but I will let you know. It's great. This is our 8th year, so we're really excited. So, all right.
I'm very excited about this next journey and doing the ghost hunting.
Well, good. I know you'll enjoy it.
I'm an addict. I watch all the ghost hunting shows and all the. Have you guys seen the new one, Haunted Live?
I don't think.
Yeah.
Is that the one with
Tennessee or the boys in Tennessee?
With the Wraith.
Tennessee Wraith Chasers.
Wraith, yes. Yeah.
I actually interviewed them on Paranormal Crossings before, TV show.
Oh.
And yeah, they were great guys. Really enjoyed it.
You know what? It's probably the best one that I've seen because there's no editing involved, right? So they can't, I love Zach. Don't get me wrong. Zach's a ghost hunter, but there's so much editing in that show, and so many of them are edited to death. But this one, the haunt is actually done live. And they have people from social media that will chip in and say, "Oh, I saw this or I saw that," and they go check it out. And it's very good. Check it out.
I see commercials for it, but I haven't actually watched it yet.
Yeah, I think you'll like it.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, I thought so too. It's probably my new favorite ghost hunting show, and I watch them all.
I honestly had to stop because of my blood pressure.
Oh,
yeah,
and my wife didn't like the fact that I would yell at the TV.
Yeah.
That a few times.
Yeah.
Some of them are a little ridiculous.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Some of the shows, I was like, okay. My wife says, watch this then. I don't know. I just have to. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, well, I couldn't find anything else on, and the remote stopped there, so I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot, right. and then 5 minutes into the show, I'm going, are you an idiot?
Yeah.
I would call you a complete moron, but the fact is we know you're missing parts. Yeah. It's that kind of thing. And then it's like, shh, stop yelling at the TV. They can't hear you, no matter how loud you yell.
Exactly. It's it's not one of your interviews. Stop.
My husband yells at the TV. He's like, "Don't go in that room. Don't go in that room." I'm like, "Honey, they're going to go in that room." Well, I'm leaving the room if they're going in that room. So.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
All right. Well, once again, thank you so much, Tammy Luethje. Luethje.
You did it.
Luethje. I got it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And once again, I'm Aaron Collins with Paranormal Crossings Into the Unknown, and I'm here with my co-host, James Mitchell, my good friend as always. All right, and until next time, everyone be good, be kind, love thy neighbor, and just be positive, and just sift out the negativity and just be positive. And we will see you, and well, not see you, but we'll have you tune in hopefully next week. So I am Aaron Collins. You have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.